Well, since it's Thursday, we normally review MLW and Impact Wrestling. However, on this episode, there's been some changes. There is no MLW. I don't know why. I'm not sure if it has something to do with the next event they're going to be hosting. But that doesn't mean I will not review Impact Wrestling. As you know, we're only 2 weeks away from tomorrow, which is Friday, to No Surrender, and we got a lot of things taking place in that. Of course, a couple of qualifying matches for a number one contendership spot. Whoever will be coming out face the Impact Wrestling World Champion later after No Surrender, and we got other things that are taking place with our Digital Media Championship being on the line between Matt Cardona and the champion Joe Hendry. But first things first, we're going to be reviewing XPW, or as known as Xtreme Pro Wrestling, since they're in Jersey. Majority of their matches features, of course, a lot of their death matches, but some of their matches features championships such as the XPW World Heavyweight Championship and of course the XPW Women's Championship, and then finally, King of the Death matches will be on the line in the main event where Schlank takes on Maga Butcher, a member of the Mega Maga, who are trying to reclaim something that belongs to them. And then, of course, we'll cap it up with some news updates telling what's been going on in the world. But majority of the news updates, we got some GCW stuff that leads into certain events leading into the WrestleMania week. And, of course, upcoming events. And we got plenty of other stuff to talk about. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Lead It Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So let's begin with Extreme Pro Wrestling, or XPW, with We Are Not Your Kind, that took place on the 21st of January last month. This is one of the first shows of 2023. First, we have a pre-show match consistent with Sam Lawhorn takes on the Soul Taker. Let's call him the ghetto version, the death match version of Undertaker. You can tell that this match was gonna go into a death match way when, of course, they brought out the light tubes, but it took only a tombstone by the Soul Taker to put away Lawhorn. 1, 2, 3. It was done right from there. Now we start our main card. Our first match is a normal, traditional match. We have, of course, Juventud Guerrera taking on Enzo Amore, also better known as now as Rio 1. In the beginning of this entire, before the bell ring, all these two guys ever did is talk trash. You probably would have thought this match was going to be, okay, who's the much bigger trash talker. To be honest with you, I don't think it mattered. But the only question is, who was going to walk out. Now, you probably would think Enzo would do it since he likes to cheat his way out through, but not this time. Juventud applied a big diving body splash. I would have assumed if he had an opportunity, he would have done the 450 splash. But no, it did not happen in that way. So basically, ended with Juventud with the diving body splash. Next up, we have one of a few of the death matches taking place. We have the Body taking on Lucky Ali. This is the most insane match. Now, the Body is a real nut freak. He's a nut freak. You probably wouldn't have believed the things he was doing, but Lucky 13 was doing the most damaged things you wouldn't possibly. If you guys are not fans of this type of stuff, then you guys should turn away, not seeing what you saw. But however, the match could have won by Lucky 13 if it wasn't for Mr. Fantastic decided to give the Body the helping hand to pick up the win. The Body won by applying a Death Valley driver onto chairs, and it was over right from there. It was over right from the moment he Lucky 13 was unable to move. So that's pretty much it. What happened in this match. Next up, we got the ladies taking place doing death matches. We got Chelsea um, Durden taking on, of course, Sage Sin Supreme. This was also a much brutal match. Now, Sage Sin Supreme, who is second generation wrestler, especially in death matches, this was a very tough match. You probably would have assumed that Chelsea would have gotten the upper hand, but this time it was Singe same with the gargoyle suplex that finished her off, giving her the W. But of course, a lot of fans gave Chelsea Durden the standing ovation for a hell of a job, and I think that she deserved that. Next up, we have Big F and Joe taking on Drake Younger. This guy, he has been Drake Younger, who had no experience in death matches, somehow was able to do some incredible things with death matches. I have to say, he's one of those guys you definitely will be surprised. Now, you probably assume this match would end by pinfall submission, but the ref saw that it was no use. Big F and Joe was already out of it, so it was made by decision by ref stoppage. Now, before we get into our next matches, the owner and founder Rob Black shows up, getting a plaque for his community service until they were invaded by the MAGA, who claimed that plaque belongs to them, and they attacked the guy who's presenting it. But Rob Black told Butcher if he even thinks about putting his hands on him, that he will suspend him indefinitely, which is something they cannot afford. Now, our next match is a championship match. We have the World Heavyweight title. We have Masada. But first things, Martina and, of course, our current women's champion, Ludrak, tried to get into his face until Tom Latimer shows up. Now, this match, I have to say, it was a very interesting one. I did not expect Tom Latimer to be involved in these type of matches. I wouldn't think this would be his cup of tea, to be honest with you, because normally we see Tom Latimer in NWA. But I have to say he did a pretty good job. But there was a moment where, of course, Tom Latimer at the end, when we thought he had everything under his control, Latimer was pinned. He grabbed the rope. The referee did not see it, so the match went in favor of Masada. So basically, a win's a win. Ref did not see exactly what he needed to see. I mean, tough luck for Latimer, but happy day for Masada. Now, our next match, we have another death match in a three-way. We have Charlie Bonifer versus Kirk Bell versus JJ Escobar. This match was brutal. I mean, they brought a chainsaw and, of course, one of those weed cutters. Much insane to watch. I wasn't sure how this was going to go. I mean, JJ Escobar was insane. He was getting mostly beat up, but it was Escobar who pinned Bonifer after dealing with him, and 1, 2, 3, it was over. So basically, JJ Escobar is your winner. Next up is the XPW women's title in a death match between Lindsay Snow along with Motherless taking on Lundrak Shaitan, who is the current champion. This match was also another brutal match. I mean, both Lindsay and Lundrak were close, but now it seems like they're bitter enemies and that sort of thing. But you probably would have thought that Lindsay would have gotten the bigger win on this one, but no. Apparently, Lundrak picked up the pinfall right away, and it was not exactly how Lindsay wanted it. But the commentators did mention that this is far, far from over. So we'll see what happens then. Now, our main event is the XPW King of the Death Matches title between Mega Butcher, who is representing the Mega Maga, taking on Schlank. This match has a very interesting one. This is a, how do I say, a death match that exposed the boards underneath the safety of the ring, and then there's no ropes. They were replaced by barbed wires and, of course, sheets of glass. This was a brutal, but of course, in some point in this match, we knew that freaking Mega Maga were gonna get involved in this, try to ensure that the King of the Deathmatch title goes back to them where it rightfully belongs. But the last thing that no one expected is, of course, is our current XPW World Heavyweight Champion gets involved by helping his buddy Schlank. I forgot what they call themselves as a team, but they were able to get rid of them, and he whacked Mega Butcher with the chair. And as soon as it was over, Jasmine, who is one of the leaders of the group, decided to try to whack Masada, but he got tossed by Schlank outside, and then of course got sucker punched by him. And of course, the referee who has been kissing their ass also got himself beat up. But Mega Butcher was not too pleased. He was going like, "What the f just happened?" So I thought this was a pretty good match, a pretty good event. Even though um, I don't know what's the history. I think that they're telling now in this one. What's now the significance with Masada Schlong? So the way they're telling it, it may not be good, but we'll see what happens in the upcoming months with them, and we'll see from there. So let's move on right now with Impact Wrestling. Okay, Impact Wrestling. It opened up with, of course, Matt Cardona showing up. Everybody who were in the locker room, especially the staff, were being very, very disrespectful for good reasons. One, I think they're upset the fact the way he made up his raps talking about Hendrick's mom must have found offensive. And not to mention, he will always be remembered as Edge's bitch. So that's really interesting to hear. But however, let's talk with the first opening match. This is one of four qualifying matches in a fatal four-way match that will be taking place in No Surrender to determine the number one contender for the Impact Wrestling World title. Our first match has Brian Myers taking on Dirty Dango. I thought this match was pretty interesting. As you know, Brian Myers is trying to step up his game. However, Dirty Dango, not only he wants to win this one, he wants to be like the deputy director of authority next to Santino Morello. But however, it took only two um, roster cut, which is like a lariat, one outside of the ring, one inside, for Brian Myers to pick up the win and go into fill his spot at No Surrender. Now, Giselle Shaw, who's now been dubbed as the Black Widow, being a little bit of the mean girl, decided to disrespect the staff until Deonna Purrazzo, who had enough of Giselle Shaw calling her, saying things about her best friend. We're talking about Chelsea Green. Now, Jai Vidal tried to get involved. I don't know if he was being a distraction, but Giselle tried to toss something into her face, but Deonna saw that a mile away and it backfired. However, Santino Morello stepped in, tried to make peace, and tried to say, let's settle this in No Surrender. And now it's official that match will be taking place. We have Deonna Purrazzo versus Giselle Shaw. Now, our next interview, Trey Miguel. Now, if you guys remember, Trey Miguel, in the other hand, he's pissed off and being freaked out by the erratic behavior of Crazy Steve. Now, keep in mind, since Trey Miguel has this new attitude, basically what is happening is he's tagging everything in his sight. And now that Crazy Steve, he thinks that, oh, he tagged himself. That's how it works. So he did not like it. And once again, Crazy Steve playing these amazing mind games is really, really making things real difficult for Trey Miguel. But that's how Steve is. He plays mind games. So we'll see what happens then. Now, our next match, we have the Good Hands, Jason Hotch and John Schuyler taking on Tommy Dreamer and Mickey James. Now, keep in mind, these two knuckleheads, Hotch and Schuyler, were involved with Bully Ray on multiple occasions, especially try to take out Tommy Dreamer, getting involved to take out Mickey James. But now Mickey James and Tommy Dreamer get their hands on these morons, and they actually did. They applied stereo DDT to giving the win. But Bully Ray shows up in the post match, attacks Tommy Dreamer, and right behind Mickey James is Masha Slamovich, who is the number one contender for the Impact World Championship. Now, Bully Ray has his issues with Mickey James because he thinks that he was the one who sold out Hard to Kill, but in reality, it was Mickey James with their last rodeo. So that kind of sets the whole thing. So we'll see what happens in the upcoming weeks. Now, as you know, Santino, who is taking the role as Deputy of Authority, he buns into Johnny Swinger and he needs to pick up 50 wins or else something's gonna happen. So basically Swinger was trying to get a request, but Dirty Dango stepped up, saying that his request was denied. I don't think that Santino likes it, but we'll see what happens then. Now, we had an amazing video that they showed in about Rich Swann, talked about his journey. If you remember, it's been almost 2 years since he had the Impact World Championship. He hasn't had another opportunity since losing it to Kenny Omega back then. So the obvious thing is with what exactly is going to happen. He knows that he's facing someone he admires, someone who has been at the top of his game. So he's not a slouch on this one. So we'll see what happens then in No Surrender between those two, between two good friends. Now we see the debut of Steph Landers, formerly known as Persia Parada, back in WWE. She takes on Jordan Grace. I thought it was a pretty good debut for Landers in this particular match because we haven't seen her since she left WWE then until she was released. But seeing her there, it was pretty good. Not to mention she put up a hell of a fight, but unfortunately, Jordan Grace applied the Grace Driver onto her. 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now we do get an interview with Josh Alexander by Gia Miller. Josh talks about someone who he cares about, Rich Swann, who he knows that deep down he's been eating up inside, not getting another opportunity of the Impact World title. And of course, he was interrupted by Kenny King, who felt that people are throwing in opportunities that he felt that it should have been him, but Rich Swann got involved. Then he sucker punched him to teach him a lesson. So those two will clash next week. So that has been made official. Next match, we have a very interesting one. We have Killer Kelly and Taylor Wilde taking on the Death Dolls, consistent of Rosemary and Tail Valkyrie. Now, I wasn't too sure how this was going to go, but I thought it started out great until some point in this, Taylor Wilde pulled out her terrorist cards and then showed something to Kelly and then betrayed her just like that. I don't know what was the whole point, but it was the Halls of Valhalla by Tail Valkyrie off to Killer Kelly that win the match. But in the post match, we saw the return of Father James Mitchell, who said that Rosemary's father, who was Mitchell's boss, not happy with the tribute, so he decided to pull on Hex on them, and it turned out to be the Hex consisted of Allison Kay and Marty Bell. Now, don't know for sure if these girls are no longer with NWA. That's something hasn't been discussed yet, or they're just being paid off because they seem like more freelancers. But we'll see what happens then. But seeing them is going to be interesting because I know for sure that the Hex will be making a play for the Knockouts World Tag Team titles. That's something that seems like they're going to aim for. But we'll see what happens then. Now, Shara is next in line to face PCO in a qualifying match. Eddie Edwards told him that he needs to get rid of him in order to ensure that this doesn't go further. But however, we'll see about that. Now, in the back, we saw the Morrison Machine Guns reunited with their old friend Kushida. Kushida says, he's happy for them that they're double champion. But Alex Shelley puts out, what we should do is challenge for the never open weight 6-man tag team titles. I'm like, that is a good one. However, Bullet Club, consisting of Ace Austin and Chris Bay, comes out saying that, they were very close in winning the match. But however, it wasn't for the major players, none of this would have happened. but they did state it in No Surrender that they're going to team up with someone from Bullet Club, and that is none other than Kenta. That's going to be one hell of a match to watch. I'm looking forward to that because we know Kenta will be here later on this month for Battle in the Valley in San Jose. Now, our qualified match between Shera and PCO, I have to say this is a pretty good match. Raja Singh tried to get involved, but nope, it did not work. PCO applied the PCO salt, and it gave him a guaranteed spot. So he is one of two people who already qualified. The first one qualified is Brian Myers. We will get 2 more qualifying matches next week. Now we do see an interview with Gia Scott with Cardona, who's not happy with things have been going. And then of course he went to find Joe Hendry, and then he sees Mike Myers getting shrimp, and everybody were happy with him to sing that song, say his name, and all of that stuff. I thought it was just too funny. In our final segment, we do see Frankie Kazarian try to talk to Sam McCallum and try to say, why would you want to side with the design? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I know you're violent, I know you're crazy, but why would you make the jump? And I think he was trying to understand what is really happening. However, the design showed up and tried to tell him that if to talk to Diener. However, Kazarian said, "How about you and I, Russ? Since are you a gambling guy? Well, never mind. Listen, we got this thing coming up in Vegas, no surrender. So how about you like to play a little gamble right there?" So that could be a match that we will see. Now, our next match, we have the Digital Media Championship, Matt Cardona versus Joe Hendry, first time ever. I thought this match was really fun. I wasn't too sure how this was going to play out, but one thing you did sure, I did saw how Joe Hendry was being a little slide devil, tried to basically Myers accidentally clotheslined Matt Cardona, but did gave Hendricks to pick up the win. But of course, all of a sudden, here comes Moose, and Moose speared Cardona. And I thought this match was really interesting. However, this event show did not end until once again Joe Hendry played Edge's bitch once again, and everybody was singing it. Cardona was like living it. He can't believe this is happening, that his life is turned upside down. I thought it was great. To me, you'll be always as Edge's bitch. I just love that. It's just too hilarious. So I think that's it for Impact Wrestling. I believe it's time for news updates. Okay, welcome to our news updates. So let's get started. Now, if you guys remember, we talked about this whole thing where Wrestling Observer's Bryan Alvarez talked about how there's a working relationship with WWE, more specific with the NXT talent going to the Indies, because we saw that Ivy Nile is going to be appearing at Reality of Wrestling, which is Booker T's promotion and school. Apparently, Sean Ross Sapp, if you guys remember, he mentioned that he talked to Shawn Michaels and he tells him no, that this is not going to happen. However, Bryan Alvarez believes that Booker T, someone is lying to him about what he reported. It's a matter of he said, she said. Now, keep in mind, Booker T saying none of this is true, but there was a statement that Bryan Alvarez got from the promotion itself saying that there is going to be a working relationship from what he's saying. So he's calling Booker T a liar. Now, I hate to be Booker T. If he hears that from Bryan Alvarez, I'm sure there's going to be arguing between the two of them, because this is my opinion, what I think is happening. None of this was specified, like saying, okay, is NXT really going to give their talent opportunity to wrestle in the Indies? If it's no, we understand. Or is Ivy now just going to make an appearance for this just for kicks? That's possibly, but a lot of things kind of were like mixed mixed up. So we don't know for sure. Right now, I'm waiting to see what Booker T will have to say. What is his response towards this claim? And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fight. Trust me on that. Now, two matches have been announced for the upcoming Stardom in the Showcase, Volume 4, I believe, is going to take place on the 26th of this month of February. First one's going to be Anywhere's False Count. The participants will be none other than Hanan from Stars, Azumi from Queen's Quest, and of course, freelancers Momoka Hanazono, and of course, Surumi Natsu. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I know Momoka Hanazono is going to be one hell of a match for her to enjoy. So we'll see what happens then. But, however, the next match for the showcase by Stardom, we have the UWF rules, which is now official, is going to be Saki Kashima versus Sudi. Now, WrestleCon has announced two things that happened. The first, if you guys remember, Val Venus will be making his appearance at WrestleCon, but also for the Super Show on the Mark Hitchcock Memorial Show, they announced that Japanese wrestler Shigehiro Iri will be participating in that show. So that's going to be great to see. Now, this is getting old. Wrestling Observer talked about this. They're saying that will CM Punk be available in the upcoming months if he decides? We don't know. I mean, this is one of the things. I know people in AEW don't want him. Certain people felt like he didn't do nothing wrong. I know that there are certain people say, can the Elite work things out with CM Punk? I mean, that is the possibility. But the thing is, we don't know not much. I mean, I feel this whole thing is getting old until we know for sure what is happening. So I have to say, Wrestling Observer are on point on some things, but we just don't know if, to this extent if it's going to happen or not. Now, certain luchadors were announced by the Wrestling Observer that we haven't seen for quite some time. Bandito, Ray Phoenix, and Penta Cero Miedo. It turns out that the reason we haven't seen them on AEW television due to the fact of their visa issues. Now, we have seen recently wrestlers who have been dealing with their visas, such as Kenny. Who else they had to deal with? I know Buddy Matthews had his last year and all this, but it's understandable. If they have to try to fix it, I get it. That's part of the process. Now, I mentioned before Pro Wrestling Eve, the all-female promotion in the UK, more specifically in London, announced that Surumi Natsu will be making her way there. However, she's not the only Joshi wrestler going to be involved. They announced that Miyuki Takase will also be there. I have to say it's great that now that these Japanese Joshi wrestlers will be making their way to the UK. I'm sure everybody's so excited for that. So I'm looking forward to it. I did mention on the previous news updates for the Canadian promotion, Nation Extreme Wrestling. Minoru Suzuki will be there. His opponent will be none other a guy named Judas Icarus. I don't know who he is, but I'm sure people are going to enjoy that. West Coast Pro for the upcoming event, a home of killers. This takes place on the 7th of April. Uh, Ref Pro sensation Michael Oku will be making his debut. I'm so excited. A lot of the West Coast Pro fan base will be in a big treat. Prestige Wrestling announced for their WrestleMania event taking place on WrestleCon, Nervous Breakdown. There's going to be a match between Shigehiro Hiri and Kevin Blackwood. That's going to be great. Um, since I reviewed XPW, their upcoming event that takes place on the 18th of this month, Pleasure of the Flesh, the XPW Women's Championship will be on the line. Lundra Shaitan will defend it against Miranda Elise. That's going to be great. Beyond Wrestling has announced some interesting developments. They announced for their upcoming event, Perfection of Vanity, on the 28th of this month. Zack Sabre Jr. will be making his first time appearance since 2017, so I'm sure everybody's going to enjoy that. Now, interesting developments for this coming weekend for the Never Openweight Championship. I knew this was going to happen, and I know some of you House of Torture fans may not like it. Evil and the rest of the House of Torture were put on an ultimatum. If they don't defend those titles this weekend, then they will be officially stripped of their titles. And I'm sure Evil is going to be pissed, calling the New Japan officials that they're going to be cursed for getting involved. I'm sure that's going to happen. But nevertheless, they have to defend them. Now, interesting developments in the AEW world. They announced that AEW will be broadcasting their their live events in Australia and New Zealand and the Pacific Islands by ESPN. So ESPN will be their official broadcast for those those Pacific regions, Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands. I know they're working real hard to establish more, so we'll see what place takes place there. Now, I talked about this already. For all you Momoka Hanazono fans out there, I have a bit of her schedule that she will be participating um, later on. Let me pull it up real quick. So, um, as you know, we are right now on the 10th, so she will be in Heat Up on the 11th. So, no, we're on the 9th, sorry. So, right now it should be the 10th, and then on the 11th, she'll be in Heat Up, and then the following day, she'll be in Oz Academy at Jujuku Face, I believe, and then stand up at Gen. Again, back on the 19th for Oz Academy at the 176 box. I don't know what she's doing on the 24th. Then she'll make her appearance at the Colors event on the 25th. And then, of course, finally the 26th, which is the Showcase event, which I mentioned to. So if you guys are big on Momoka Hanazono, keep that in mind right now. Now, our final update. No, do we have our final update? Yeah, our final update right now is GCW. This is what's happening. For the Jimmy Lloyd's big birthday with taking place on the 17th, and also this is a collaboration with Violence X Suffering. They're gonna have Dark Sheik versus Santana Jackson because this event will be taking place in Las Vegas. For the Ransom event taking place at Atlantic City on the 5th of March, the GCW World Tag Team titles will be on the line. We got Los Macizos taking on the Motor City Machine Guns. DDT in LA, we have Shuna Katsumata and Mao taking on Chris Brooks and Yoshihiko. For the Culture taking place on the 30th of March, Trish Adora returns. Now we have new participants for the Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 9 event that takes place on the 30th of March. Here's who we have. We got Davey Boy Smith, J.R. Kratos, Davey Richards, Marina Shafir, Calvin Tankman, Eric Hammer, and of course, participating in the commentary section for the broadcast, Lenny Leonard. So I have to say, I think I'm going to enjoy this one. Then for our World on Lucha, Negro Casas makes his debut in GCW. If you guys aren't familiarized with him, he is a legendary wrestler, second generation wrestler, like his father, who's a wrestler. Now he has his nephews involved, but yeah. Now for the 2nd of April, we have the Indie Wrestling Hall of Fame. Christopher Daniels is the latest inductee, but he will be inducted by his closest friend Frankie Kazarian. So I'm looking forward to that. GCW also announced for two upcoming events in the month of May on the 20th and the 21st. Both the 20th will be in Detroit, and of course on the 21st of May will be Columbus, Ohio. So I'm sure all of the GCW fans are looking forward to it. So I think that's pretty much it what we have. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Coming up, we have more on AEW Rampage. We can't believe what's going to happen. There were matches that have been announced on Dynamite, but we don't know yet what's going to transpire. And of course, we have more on NXT Level Up. And after that, we don't know. I haven't decided if I'm going to be throwing something to fill up the gap. But we'll just wait and see. I'm also, um, I'll be soon be releasing the next Unagi Sayaka Watch video. That'll be coming up right after this one, and then after that, the next episode. So we'll stand by for that. So for now, I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.